Good afternoon, everyone, actually. Good afternoon. Can everyone hear me?
I can hear you, yes. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Fantastic. Let's get started. So just so everyone is aware, the webinar is being recorded so that we can upload the video to our YouTube channel. If you have any feedback or suggestions, we'd really appreciate it after the webinar has finished. Today, we're going to cover the installation process of CabMaster Pro version 11.1. We'll be covering the installation process twice, one of the cloud version and one of the hardware lock version. We'll also cover what you need to do should you need to move your existing CabMaster to another location, whether it be a network drive or a cloud server or just another folder on your computer. Features of the webinar interface. On the left-hand side of the screen, there are tabs. You'll see Q&A. Note that if you have a question, you can type it down the bottom of that Q&A tab. Questions will not be visible to anyone else until they have been answered by Aaron or Jamie. Please keep any questions related to the subject. We're not providing technical support in the webinar. We do have Jamie and Aaron here today to answer your questions during the webinar. I'll also cover some of the questions at the end. So today we're going to be installing version 11.1.0.121. This is the latest version of CabMaster Pro. We'll be installing it onto computers running the Windows 10 operating system. Note that you have Windows 11, the process is going to be the same. We do not recommend you install CabMaster software onto any other operating system, such as Apple. The recommended PC requirements are as follows: an Intel i7 processor, 16 GB of RAM or more, 1 TB of hard disk space, and an NVIDIA graphics card that is CUDA compatible. This can be found on our website. So I'll share my screen now and we'll go over the download and installation process. Okay. So where to find the installation CD for CabMaster Pro version 11.1? Go to our website. There's a few ways to get to the same spot. You can either go support and click Help Center, or you can scroll down the bottom. This button here will get you to the same place, or you can click this picture of Aaron just there, and it will also take you to our Help Center. From here, if you type in install, spell it correctly, you'll get this link, installing CabMaster Pro on a computer. It will take you to this page. You then click installing CabMaster direct link. And here you'll find the installation CDs for the latest version of 11 and 11.1. There is also an entire guide on how to do it here. So you would click that link. I'm not going to do it now because it'll take between 4 and 10 minutes to download, depending on your internet, but it will download into your default downloads folder. I've got a shortcut of it here, and that is it there. So we'll first go with installing CabMaster Pro Cloud version. In the downloads folder, double click it, and then click yes, and the download will begin. Sorry, the install will begin. This will take 30 seconds or so. The first decision you're going to need to make is whether you're going to be using a cloud version license or a hardware license. You should have the license prior to installing the software. If you have the hardware lock, it will look like, if we go back to our website, a USB that looks like that. So it will ask, do you want to set this up, use a HASP or cloud security? As we're doing an install for the cloud security first, by default, it is yes. So we'll leave it as that. We'll click OK. Then we click Next. There's your terms and conditions. You can read it in your own time. To continue, click I agree, and then click Next. This is the location of where you want to install the software. It is always a good idea to go to this location in File Explorer and make sure that it doesn't already exist. As you can see, I've got AllMaster 1 and 2 and old, but I do not have an AllMaster Software folder. So we can go back to here. If you need to change it, if you already do have an AllMaster Software folder with CabMaster Pro v11.1 installed, you can always change it to Fresh Install. This way it won't override any existing CabMaster files that you have saved. And we'll click Next. Leave all of these ticked. This way you can ensure that CabMaster will work properly. And we'll click Next, and then click Next again, and now it will install. The install process usually takes 2 or 3 minutes. As you can see, it has created the AllMaster Software folder. Wait for the install to finish. If you have any questions on this process so far, please put them in the Q&A in the webinar interface. Should you get any errors during this process, best idea is to just contact support. As you can see there, it does say overwrite files without prompting, and that is why it's absolutely vital to make sure that you don't have a working copy of CabMaster Pro version 11.1 already in an AllMaster Software file. Click Finish, and as you can see, CabMaster is now installed and that the icon is on the desktop, and it shows us that it is installed to C AllMaster Software CabMaster Pro version 11.1, which is this file here. We'll minimize that. So running CabMaster for the first time, if you're using a cloud license, right-click and click Run as Administrator. You only need to do the Run as Administrator once. Every time it is going to bring up this, you just click Yes. That is a Windows security setting and it cannot be changed within CabMaster. The first time you run CabMaster, you'll be presented with this window, and that is where you paste in your license. Your license may look like that, or it may look like that, depending on if it's Cloud 2 or Cloud 1. Both of these licenses are dummy examples, so please do not copy in or screenshot and then try and type that in. They will not work. I will apply the license from mine. Minimize that. You paste it into that white box and then you just click the activate button. And now CabMaster will run. It will show you your lock ID and it will have your company name there. It's also showing you the version. To unlicense CabMaster, open up a fresh drawing. And you'll be presented with CabMaster. It'll ask you to apply a template. You just click OK, close your own properties. Click on File up in the top left corner. Go to Options, and then click Release. It will immediately shut down once you click Yes. This is why you start with a fresh drawing, and that way you won't lose anything you've done to that drawing. And now CabMaster is shut down. If you're using a Cloud 2 license, when you reopen CabMaster again, it will automatically have the Cloud 2 license pasted in that box. You can use the cloud license on multiple computers, just not at the same time. So that's why it's vital that you release from one before you apply to the next. I will now hand over to Aaron to cover the installation process for customers with hardware locks.
Good day. Hello. Thank you for that, Nick. The process for, and I'm going to be sharing my screen. So share screen. Is my screen up? All right. So basically it's the same process as the actual doing the cloud one, except basically you have a hash key, you have a lock. So the same process goes on. You download it. I'm not going to go through the download process again. I'm just going to go to this. The hash locks look exactly like this. If it ever comes up. So that's just a hash dongle. The same process. You run the CabMaster, you run the install disk. Or not. My one's just seems to be not coming up. At this time would be a nice time to point out that you would probably call support if it wasn't working. So we wait for it to fix, and the first decision that's going to come up will be about the hash block. And instead of writing Y in there, so I'll be showing you that in just a sec, as soon as this part processes through. Where it says Y, instead of going Y, you will be putting in N for no. If you do not do this, and if you do have a hash key, it will prompt you for the cloud key, and it will not run your CabMaster. Vice versa if you go the opposite way. But it's more likely that you will run it as a cloud one because it's set as its default. So if I go OK, next, I am agree. You can read that in your own time. Most of this I'm going to be skipping over because it was already covered by Nick. Same thing as here. You would browse for the location. I know mine is free at the moment for that. I'm going to go next. I would recommend you keep all of those settings. Next, next. And it's literally the same process that goes on as to the cloud one. The only difference is once all this is completed, there will come up a pop-up which will ask you to install the hash block. If you do not install that, once we get to it, it will basically cause your CabMaster not to work because it will not be using the licensed software. Come on. This is the question where it says the hardware lock will now install the step as next. This can be skipped if your lock is already installed. So if you've already installed a CabMaster, so you can maybe doing this if you're installing CabMaster 11 or you've got 11.1 already installed, you might skip this. At this point, I'm going to click yes. If it's already installed, it will just install without too much of an issue anyway. So it's sometimes worth to just click it anyway. Now that it's installed, you will notice that your dongle will actually light up. So it will actually, instead of it just being a dark purple, it will be a lit up dongle. It will actually have a little orange or yellow light on it. The same process happens as normal for CabMaster Cloud as it does for CabMaster AEST. And a lot of this is dependent. A lot of it is dependent on your internet speed as to how quickly everything uninstalls or installs. But and once this is finished, I will basically start CabMaster. Usually it puts in an icon if you don't already have one, but it does check for your icon. So I'm just going to load it from my task manager at this point. And as you can see, it's put in the, actually it hasn't. I do apologize about that. As you can see, you do not need to put any code because once the hash lock is in, it will automatically continue going. So you will just boot up and it should run. You can, as you basically, I'm sorry, I have two screens, so I'm sorry that my one's popped up on the other screen. I do apologize about that. But as you can see, it should just pop up. To unlicense this one, you do not have the same licensing thing in here. All you do is you pull the hash key out, move it to another computer. I will now pass you back to Nick.
Thank you, Aaron. We are now going to go over moving CabMaster to another folder. Say you're running a cloud server, or you need to move it to a USB to then put your existing CabMaster to someone else's computer. What we have here is the fresh install. I also have my old CabMaster, which is the one I want to copy. So what you do is you take that and you'd send to compress zip folder. I'm not going to do that because it takes a couple of minutes. I am just going to locate it wherever I put it, which I believe is already probably in there. It is just once it's zipped, it is a matter of you can either cut it or copy it and then paste it into whether it's your OneDrive, your Dropbox, if you're running a external hard drive or the USB. Once it's in this folder, whether it is your shared drive or etc., it's right click and extract all. The extraction process will take probably a minute or so. It is important to note that it will extract to whatever the zip file is called. So if it's called CabMaster Pro v11.1, it will try and extract into any other folder that's called CabMaster Pro v11.1, wherever that zip file is saved to. In this case, I've put the date on the end of it just to make it a bit easier to understand. When moving your CabMaster folder across to a cloud server, bear in mind there will be a period of syncing, and it can be an overnight process. So it's always best to do this at the end of the day once you finish using the software to move everything across. Sorry, this is taking a little bit longer than I thought it would. Does anybody have any questions that I'd like to ask just while we're waiting for this? Obviously, you don't extract it within the USB. You plug the USB into another computer, copy the zip file across into wherever you want to save it, and then you would extract in that location on the new computer. Of course, you still need to do the fresh install on the new computer. The process for en route or EasyNest is very different. And if you need either of those installed, you contact support directly. The same system requirements for the laptop as for a desktop, which is a Intel i7 processor, 16 gigabyte of RAM or more, a graphics card with an NVIDIA graphics card that is CUDA compatible, and 1 terabyte of hard disk space. All that can be found on our website. Nearly there. If you have an NRoute subscription and you haven't signed up for NRoute customer care with us, you would need to contact your sales rep or NRoute directly. Of course, you can always sign up for NRoute customer care with us directly. Once the file is extracted, as you can see, there is now our old version of CabMaster Pro v11.1. If you had, again, an existing or a fresh install, you could rename the fresh install to CabMaster Pro v11.1 fresh, and then remove the date from this one, which is what I'm going to do. So I'll minimize that, and now we will run CabMaster 11.1 again. It's still going to work off the file location that is in the AEST software folder. So we need to change our file locations. So to do that, we click Advanced and then click Modify File Locations. So as you can see, it's all still just on the C drive. If you're running or going to run your library and your materials and everything from a network drive or a cloud server, leave the program as the fresh install path, which is C AEST Software CabMaster Pro v11.1. It's only these ones here that you need to change. You can leave the backups and probably just the backups as the C drive as well. The rest you can either copy and paste, type, or click Browse. This instant, I'm going to go Browse, and then I'm going to go to the desktop, click on there, and click on there. Okay, and as you can see, that has now changed. You can copy all that, and then paste all that into there. Bear in mind that if you do that, it is all going to point to the data folder. But now it will allow us to do this. So we go Data, Browse. This one here is the library folder. Now we're looking for the tables folder. Now we need the bitmap folder. My recommendation is always do it through browse, and that way you find it and you actually know which folder it's looking for. Template, and we'll go tool data. If you had the fresh install and you renamed it to fresh install, and then your original or your old version you just called CabMaster Pro V11.1, you wouldn't need to change the file locations. That is the backup folder, which is there. And we'll go OK. You know that you've done everything right if you've got your options there. If you click that, you can see that it adds all the other ones in. Leave that unticked and click Create New Drawing. And that's how you change all your file locations. The other thing you will have is your template not quite lining up with your page. To change this, we need to do it in CabMaster and in Windows. Click on File, go to Print, and then click Print Setup. In this case, my default printer is the Epson, so we'll go Properties, click Advanced, and change that to A4. If you're using A3 or any other size, you set that up, click OK. Do not do it here. Make sure you go through Properties. Click OK. It will change here. The next thing we need to do is go down to here and type in printers, select printers and scanners. It will bring up this window. Find your default printer. Make sure that Let Windows Manage My Default Printer is turned off. Manage our default printer, click on Printer Properties, and it is the same process here as well. Advanced, A4, OK, apply, OK, OK, and we can close that. Close down CabMaster. I don't need to save changes to the drawing, and we will run it again. Create new drawing. And now the template will stay aligned with the page. So that is the total process for installing CabMaster Pro and setting up the template to align with the page. If you have any further errors or issues, please contact CabMaster support. You can contact us via email at support@cabmastersoftware.com or call us on, if you're international, +61 390 40 2000. If you're in Australia, it's 03 is the area code. You can also contact us via the chat on the website, which is, if I take us there now, just down here. I'll now go through and answer any of the, or some of the questions in the Q&A section. Please keep the questions related to the subject of installing or changing the file locations for CabMaster. Does anybody have any questions I'd like to ask? Just type it in the Q&A section down the bottom. It is, I should mention, very vital that you have a good internet connection when applying and releasing the cloud license. If you do use a cloud license, you also need a good internet connection to run CabMaster. If you're using a external hard drive or a shared drive between multiple computers, ensure that it is hardwired and not connected via Wi-Fi to the computer. Excellent. Well, I think that covers everything for today. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next Friday in our next webinar.